Grace, you even realize what you've done? What kind of person just abandons their duties as a wife and causes problems for William? You're a terrible wife, and I'm going to teach you a lesson. Mother, Grace responded calmly, I have my reasons for leaving. It doesn't matter, her mother-in-law snapped. We're moving into a nice, new apartment. If you want to live with us, I'll let you know the address. Grace thought to herself, I'm sure she still doesn't know anything. Well, it's a good thing she's in the dark. No, thank you, Grace said firmly. My name is Grace, I'm 35 years old, and I work in an office. My husband, William, and I have been married for 5 years. He's now 45 years older than me. I used to date older men, but William's generosity and kindness drew me to him, and we eventually got married. For a while, our marriage was satisfying, but before long, a shadow fell over our peaceful life. I lost my job. William was suddenly laid off too. The company's business had taken a hit from the recession. I never imagined he would lose his job, especially since he worked for a big company. I thought we'd be financially secure for life, but it turns out that nothing is guaranteed in this world. We became financially strained, and I decided to return to work immediately. I contacted the company I had worked for before getting married, and luckily, they rehired me. They needed someone to fill in for an employee who had just gone on maternity leave. I was relieved that at least we had some income, but William struggled to find a new job. It's tough for a middle-aged man to start over. Eventually, he had no choice but to take on part-time work as a day laborer, bringing in about $700 a month. I was back at work, but my salary wasn't much either. We were barely making ends meet. William, I suggested one evening, the rent here is too high. Maybe we should move to a cheaper place and save some money. It would help us manage better if we lower our fixed costs. We had been living comfortably in a nice apartment, thanks to William's previous high income, but now I thought it was time to face reality and find a more affordable place. But William rejected my idea firmly. No, we're not moving. Why not? I asked, confused. If we move to a smaller, cheaper apartment, Mom will start asking questions. So what? I countered. Why not just tell her the truth? We're having a hard time making ends meet because you're out of work. William's face turned red with anger. Don't you dare tell my mother I'm unemployed. Your salary and my earnings are enough to pay the rent. We'll leave it at that. I was shocked and confused. It seemed like he cared more about his pride and our home than about protecting our marriage. Even if we could cover the rent, we were still struggling with our finances. I had suggested moving to save money, but William wouldn't budge, and I eventually gave up on the idea. Life continued to be difficult, and then one day, William made an unbelievable comment to me. This is all we have for dinner today? He asked, incredulous. We used to have more dishes. Just because you've started working doesn't mean you can slack off on your duties. Don't be lazy and manage this better. His words made me furious, and I couldn't hold back my retort. I have no choice. We were struggling to make ends meet. I was doing my best to manage both the house and my job, but someone's unnecessary pride in staying in this apartment left me no choice but to cut back on food expenses. Or you could just make more money, and then everything would be just the way you want it, I remarked provocatively. William's face flushed with anger. What the hell? Don't you dare talk to me like that. Just wait and see. I'll land a job at a good company and make more money than you. William's temper flared, but I told myself that if this sparked his motivation, I could endure his outbursts. I convinced myself it was fine, but reality soon set in. Despite his determination, William couldn't find a new job. He ended up working part-time as a day laborer, unable to secure anything better. Even with renewed motivation, the job market proved harsh. I could understand if he had taken the time to study and earn a qualification, but he hadn't. He simply worked part-time. Each interview led to rejection, and the humiliation of bowing down to younger interviewers wore him down. Eventually, William stopped looking for a job altogether, though he still believed he could earn more than me. By this point, I was disappointed and had already given up on the idea that he would turn things around. But my worries didn't stop with William. Earlier today, I received yet another phone call, this time from my mother-in-law. She called without hesitation, despite knowing I was at work. When I checked my phone during lunch, I saw over 10 missed calls. When I finally returned her call, her voice was sharp from the very first word. Why didn't you answer the phone right away? I told you the other day that I'm at work, didn't I? Work? You call that working? My needs should come first. Since losing her husband a year ago, my mother-in-law had been calling me constantly. I understood she was lonely and felt I should support her. But all she ever talked about was how it's a wife's duty to support her husband. When she found out I had started working, she became furious and wouldn't stop calling. While I was at work, my phone rang again. Did you talk to William about this properly? You can't even bother to return my calls. I'm sorry, I said, trying to keep my tone calm. But it's difficult for us to live with you right now. I'm not asking for your opinion, she snapped. William won't object to it. Actually, William says it's too difficult, I explained. Besides, we're having some financial issues. Financial issues? How can that be? William works for a big company. They pay him well, so you two must be rich, right? I was at a loss for words. William had been adamant that I shouldn't tell my mother-in-law the truth, so I couldn't explain our situation. She thought I was being selfish for working, convinced that I was lying about our financial struggles. Her constant calls were stressful, not just when I was at work, but even at night. A wife's first priority should be to support her husband, she often lectured. Taking care of your husband means taking care of his mother too. Why haven't you visited me lately? What's wrong with you? I work full-time, and I'm exhausted, I explained. William has been working part-time on weekends, so our schedules don't match. I'm sorry, but we're both so busy that it's hard to find time. Your schedules? But William is off on weekends. You could come then, couldn't you? My mother-in-law was clearly frustrated and kept pressing me. I felt it was time to tell her the truth about William. Actually, William works on weekends. What do you mean? She demanded. Just as I was about to reveal the truth, William, who had been lying on the sofa watching TV, rushed over and grabbed the phone from me. Mom, I'm sorry I haven't been able to visit you lately, he said smoothly. I'm working on a big project right now and have been putting in extra hours on weekends. I'll come visit as soon as things settle down. With that, he ended the call and turned to me, his expression stern. What were you doing? He asked, his voice low. Were you trying to tell my mom? I just think it's better to tell the truth, I replied, frustrated. If you keep this up, she'll keep nagging me because she doesn't know what's really going on. I'm sorry to hear that, but don't you dare tell my mom, William warned. That's enough, I shot back. You need to swallow your pride and tell her the truth. Shut up. I'm the one keeping us afloat, so you should be thanking me instead of talking back, he snapped, then stormed off to his room. I was on the verge of breaking down. The financial strain, combined with the pressure from both William and his mother, had pushed me to my limits. William claimed his part-time job was too demanding for him to do any housework, but he only worked on weekends and one day during the week. I knew he was capable of finding a better job or at least helping out around the house, but he chose not to. How can you do nothing at home and expect me to handle all the chores on top of everything else? I had finally reached my breaking point. I decided to leave for a while and return to my parents' house for a week. I wanted William to experience just how hard it was to manage the household alone. When I told my parents about our situation, they advised me to consider a divorce, but I wasn't ready to give up on our marriage that easily. We had been in love once, and we had been married for 5 years. If I was going to end it, I wanted to be sure I had done everything I could to make it work. After I left, William called me. When are you coming back? Where's my mail? I won't be home for a while, I replied firmly. You'll have to do all the housework while I'm gone. Don't be ridiculous. Just come home and do the chores. No, I won't. Now you'll see how hard it is to handle everything on your own. You clean the house, do the laundry, cook. Do it all yourself. It's important for you to understand just how much I've been doing while also working full-time. I ignored William's calls, deciding not to engage. Staying at my parents' house was a relief. For the first time in a long while, I shared the housework with my mom and dad. My mother would say, "You must be exhausted," as she served up home-cooked meals. I felt so grateful not having to do anything, with meals appearing as if by magic. I spent about a week at my parents' house, and honestly, I wanted to stay longer. But commuting from there to my office was challenging. It took an hour and a half each way. Eventually, I thought William must have realized by now how hard it was to manage the housework alone. So I decided it was time to return home. I was worried the house would be a mess, but when I walked in, I was surprised to find it cleaner than I expected. Still, something felt off. I had a sinking feeling and went straight to William's room. The closet was empty, his clothes and suitcases were gone. It hit me that he might have gone to his mother's place, so I called him. "What do you want now?" he answered, his tone cold. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm at my parents' house." "You left right after I did, didn't you?" I said, trying to make sense of it. "That's right," he admitted. "What did you expect? You shouldn't have left in the first place. I'm not going back to that house." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused and hurt. "I'm going to live with my mom. In fact, we're moving into a new apartment." "I have no idea what you're talking about," I stammered, at a loss for words. Suddenly, the voice on the other end of the line changed. "Hey Grace," my mother-in-law's voice cut in sharply. "Do you have any idea what you've done? How dare you abandon your duties as a wife and cause trouble for William? You're such a terrible wife, and I'm going to teach you a lesson." "Mother, I had my reasons for leaving," I tried to explain. "It doesn't matter," she interrupted. "We're moving into a nice, new apartment. If you want to live with us, I'll let you know where it is." I realized she still had no idea what was really going on. This could work to my advantage, but I had to be firm. "No, thank you." "What?" she asked, clearly shocked. I said no. I repeated, "I'm not going." "Are you serious? William is going to live with me. If you don't come here, you'll have to be alone. You've been relying on him, haven't you?" "Don't worry," I replied calmly. "I can manage on my own. If we're not living together, there's no reason for us to stay married. I'm divorcing him." "What?" The word divorce clearly stunned both my mother-in-law and William. Their surprise was palpable through the phone. "Grace, there's no need to mention divorce," William pleaded. "I can't stay married to you anymore," I said, my resolve firm. "I need to get rid of a husband like you as soon as possible." My mother-in-law snapped, "How dare you talk to William like that? We don't want a life with you either, so fine. William, just get the divorce." "No," William protested, but I cut him off. "I'll have the divorce papers ready. You'll regret this, and it'll be too late for apologies." "Same to you," I shot back before the call ended abruptly. I knew they would probably show up with the divorce papers soon, but I was relieved. Things were finally going the way I wanted. William's refusal to change made my decision clear. There was no need for us to stay together any longer. I decided to pack my bags while waiting for my mother-in-law to arrive. A few hours later, she showed up alone. "Oh, William isn't here," she remarked, looking around. "He doesn't need to be," I replied. "Here you go," she said, handing me the divorce papers. "I already had him fill out his section. Now, you just need to complete yours." As I took the papers, I noticed that William's handwriting looked shaky, as if written with trembling hands. "My William is such a wonderful man," my mother-in-law continued, her voice filled with disdain. "Even with a horrible wife like you, he was reluctant to get a divorce. I'll never forgive you for causing trouble for such a great person. I hope you live a miserable life and regret this." While I filled out my part of the form, she continued her tirade. William's pride had kept him from telling his mother the truth, even at the end. What a pathetic man he was. "What happened to your house? I noticed it's empty. If you want to come back, there's no place for you," she sneered. "I won't be coming back," I responded calmly. "How much did you get for it?" "It was old, so it must have sold for cheap." "That's none of your business," I said, tired of her prying. "But since you're so curious, it was about $50,000. Not much, but enough for a comfortable retirement. William will pay for our new apartment," she bragged. "Oh, so you were surprised he got approved?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "William is a high-class person. It's only natural," she huffed. "So, you put the money in William's account?" I pressed. "How did you know that?" "That's not important," she snapped. "Stop asking questions and remember, you're just a divorced woman now. It's too late to hold on to him." "Don't worry," I said, signing the papers with a flourish. "I've already agreed to the divorce." My mother-in-law snorted and stormed out, clearly irritated. As she left, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I was finally free from both her and William. I gathered the rest of my belongings and moved them to my parents' house, where I discovered a fresh start and the peace I had longed for. When I finally left, I managed to provoke my mother-in-law just enough to escape the burden of poverty they tried to impose on me. She insisted there was no way I'd get any of William's assets, but I couldn't help but remember the look on William's pale face during our discussions about the division of property. It still makes me chuckle. Then, about 2 years later, I received a call early one morning from an unfamiliar number. Thinking it might be work-related, I answered, only to hear the voice of my ex-mother-in-law. "Oh, Grace, please help me," she cried. "Mother," I replied coldly, "you can't keep calling me that. We're strangers now." "Don't say that. I'm in trouble." "Oh, can't pay the rent? Savings running low?" I asked, already guessing the situation. "Yes," she admitted, her voice trembling. "William didn't tell you about our financial problems until we were broke, did he?" "Oh, I knew," I said, unimpressed. "He tried to hide it, didn't he? But every time I wanted to speak up, William told me not to." "I'm sorry, Grace. I didn't know anything. I apologize. But please come back." "I don't want to," I said firmly. "William never changed, no matter how much I tried, and you always bullied me. I don't want to spend another minute with someone like you." "Please don't say that. I don't have anything to eat anymore. I'm really desperate." According to my ex-mother-in-law, William had continued to put on airs, refusing to reveal their financial struggles. He'd been using the $50,000 from selling their family home to pay rent, splurging on expensive groceries and fancy meals to keep up appearances. It wasn't long before the money was gone, leaving them penniless. "He got what he deserved, didn't he?" I said, unfazed. "Why don't you drop your pride and live modestly in a cheaper apartment?" "No, it wasn't supposed to be like this," she wailed. "I was supposed to live a comfortable life with my elite son." Her cries fell on deaf ears. I quietly hung up the phone and blocked her number, taking the extra step of getting a restraining order just in case. I had no interest in being their crutch anymore. They'd always leaned on someone else, whether parents or children, never learning to stand on their own. I, on the other hand, was determined to live independently. With that resolve, I got my life back on track, focusing on my own happiness and well-being. William and his mother could continue their unbalanced, delusional lives without me. I'm so glad Grace could sever ties with such toxic people. Now she's free to lead an independent life, and who knows, maybe she'll meet a wonderful man in the future. Let's wish her a happy life from now on. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this story. See you in the next video.